it's AltcoinSara here, and I am here with the founder of Project Veil, the privacy-focused cryptocurrency. James Borden has been actively improving and developing in the space for many years now. Some of you might recognize James as he is the co-founder of Pivex. And before we get into Veil, as you know, I am quite nosy, would you mind explaining as to why did you leave Pivex?
Well, I originally left Pivex because a lot of the newer members decided they wanted to change the direction, and they didn't want it to be full-time private. They wanted to remain less focused on privacy, and that it wasn't the original goal I had set out for Pivex. So after some discussions, and I just decided that it was time to move on and put my efforts into another project that would facilitate what I wanted to bring to the community,
which is a private focused currency and focus on the privacy, which is what Pivex was going away from. Is that correct?
Well, originally they were supposed to be full-time private, and they have a manifesto that was supposedly never to be altered or directed away from, but it just hasn't turned out to be that way. And I don't wish them any ill will. They have a good group of developers there, so I'm sure they will continue working on whatever they choose to at this point. But it's not heavily privacy focused, so I'm not interested anymore.
Fair enough. So what lessons did you learn from Pivex that you've brought forward before starting Veil?
Well, part of the biggest issue with Pivex at the moment, obviously they don't have any privacy at all. I'm sure they'll figure out a protocol soon. But the biggest issue, as far as things that I would have done differently, I would say the CDG and how it's set up. Masternodes seemed like a good idea at first, but as you can tell, you look at Dash, you look at some of the other projects that are run by masternodes, and it tends to be like a rich boys club, or even if it's not monetarily based, there's a lot of issues with voting apathy and a situation where a few people own too many masternodes that can manipulate the outcome of
they've got too much power in the system,
right? Budgetary votes, and there's really no mechanism to stop that. And it's not an issue where you really want to control people's money, because that's not what crypto is about. You don't want to tell people what to do. But as a project goes, it becomes less and less decentralized when a small handful of people own the majority of the masternodes, and then basically they steer the budget in any way they see fit. And that can be good or bad. And it started getting out of hand. There were a few people who were literally killing any competing budget proposals, and it got to a point where it became a total echo chamber, and it's just not something that we wanted to facilitate in Veil. So we, at this point, the core team decides in Veil, and in the future we will have some type of block voting mechanism, but we need to make sure that we get everything else set up and get everything else functioning from a protocol standpoint before we start working on that.
So what you're studying about the core team being in charge, so what are the main pillars of Veil then?
Main pillars meaning team-wise? Or
team-wise as well as technology-wise, focus-wise.
Well, right now we are pretty much Ring CT, which is just like Monero, same protocol, same privacy. Soon, I would say in the next, by the end of the year, we will have Ring CT staking on testnet, and then shortly after that, in the beginning of the year, we'll have Ring CT staking, which will be a first. No one else has been able to do that or make that work yet. And at the first of the year, we really start getting heavy into the development of our supersonic ZK Snarks protocol, which was originally started by Sean Bowe and a group of talented cryptographers. And then Buns recently released, and with a group of people he's working with, updated protocol to the sonic ZK Snarks that Sean started, and it basically allows us to be fully trustless And so it takes all the views that a lot of people had with like Zcash and how the setup process was so convoluted, and even though it's such a small percentage of a possibility that anybody of the original group that did the setup would be able to maintain the data and do things nefarious in the future against the project, it's still an unknown. So if we can make it better, we will.
I think that's the right attitude to have. But this something happened a couple of months ago. You had some issues with the exploit. Should the investors be worried?
No, I mean, it really comes down to the fact that, when we were working with Pivx, we
Hmm.
started really getting into zero coin. And at the time, it was probably one of literally one of the best protocols that existed, based on the fact that it offers complete uh, isolation from tokens history. So
Hmm.
if once you mint and you spend a token outside of some small possible metadata that's leaked, depending on how the user spends, uh, then you are guaranteed fungibility of the coins itself. But there were some technical issues with zero coin, and we tried to fix a lot of them along the way. And it ended up that one of the existing proofs that really wasn't highly documented in the white paper and was mentioned but not really uh, documented in detail ended up having a issue with the proof. So the proof was broken. So at that point, we could have fixed it, and
Hmm.
there is a solution to the the problem, but it basically makes the spend sizes and proof sizes larger, which makes it less suitable for what we want to do, which is basically a full-time privacy mechanism.
Hmm.
So at that point, we when this also happened after we started Veil. So at the time, we had actually had zero coin and ring CT,
Hmm.
because we were aware of the users have the ability to not take their own privacy into consideration or follow best practices. So we added ring CT to the to basically to Veil also, so we could mask or hide any of the metadata that would have
Hmm.
been leaked by the zero coin protocol. Now, that was all, I mean, that was all fine and good, but obviously the zero coin protocol ended up being broken down the road. And we basically decided that we were going to move on to a better protocol, and that's why we decided to go with Sonic ZK Snarks.
So why is ZK Snark then?
Well, ZK Snarks offers, originally before Zcash released their saplings update, there were some issues with ZK Snarks as far as using it with mobile devices. It required too much memory. And the Zcash group has done some excellent work. When they released the saplings update, it basically alleviated all those issues.
Hmm.
Um, the memory footprint is much more reasonable now, to where you could actually run privacy on a mobile device if you chose to. Um, it also, the transaction sizes became much smaller and easier about, faster and easier, lighter to validate. So when that improvement came to light and it started being tested, and even though all issues and all algorithms at some point may have issues, so far from what we've researched, Zcash by far has the best privacy protocol that exists. The downside to Zcash is that the fact that they have uh, privacy optional. So, based on recent analytics, there's very few private transactions
Hmm.
used because it's optional. So one of the mechanisms that Veil will do is we will only have the privacy option. We will be full-time private, and the user really won't have a choice. So
I think it's important because why would you use a privacy coin if you don't want your transactions to be private? It just seems a little bit pointless to me. If you want your transactions to be visible, just use any other coin that allows you. If you want it to be private, use a privacy coin. I don't really agree with the ability to have a choice when it comes to the privacy coin, because that sort of defeats the purpose of it. So I fully agree with you on that one,
yeah,
James.
we agree. We agree as well, and that was pretty much the main basis of our reasoning for wanting to change. The protocol is improved to a point where we can do what we want with it, and we have a lot of interesting things planned in the future. So it'll be a great opportunity for our developers to show, and get involved in the Zcash community, show what improvements we can make, and it'll be a lot of fun.
I'm very, very glad. But are you actually concerned about the controversy related to the malicious usage when it comes to anonymous cryptocurrencies?
Not really. Not personally. Honestly, we're
Okay.
not. We're not the moral police. We're
Yes.
a group of developers, and people are going to use it for what they choose to, regardless of whether or not we have an issue with it. But aside from that, if you look at fiat currencies,
Yes.
they are still magnitudes higher of nefarious activities that happen with those as well. So I don't think it comes down to the individual's moral compass, I guess, on how they choose to use it.
Hmm.
We're offering a mechanism that allows people to transact in privacy, and that is our goal. And if people choose to use it for good, then we applaud that. And if they choose to use it for bad, well, there's nothing we can do about that, anyways.
So, what besides the ongoing privacy, the privacy by default, what's the other added value in comparison with other competitors like Zcash, Pivot? Well, Pivex we know why, but like Dash, Monero, what's the added value of Veil basically?
Well, I mean, we want to create the ultimate protocol, is what it really comes down to. And, while we agree that at the moment Zcash is probably the best privacy protocol out there, our project is a hybrid project. So we have both proof of work, proof of stake. So if you choose to run you want to run a staking wallet, and it's not really interest, because you're basically just offsetting the inflation that all wallets create or miners create. Um, we we want the users to have the option, and soon we'll have. Right now, we are mined pretty much by GPUs, and there are some new ASICs that have come out, as well as some FPGAs that are we assume are mining on the blockchain. We don't know for sure, but it's an assumption. And we are coming out with a 3-stage proof of work setup here very shortly that allows everybody to mine. We'll have some ASICs, we'll have some GPU involved in there, and we'll also the user will be able to mine through their wallet directly, in addition to doing proof of stake. So we basically want to bring Veil to everybody and give everybody, if they choose to, the ability to obtain Veil without having to purchase it. And the goal is to create a tool or mechanism to allow people to transact in privacy, but also be able to use Veil as a real, I guess, cash alternative. And
Mm-hmm.
everything's going digital as it is. May not all be now, but it's moving in that way.
Is the
So
future, yes.
right, and when it happens, users lose pretty much all the privacy that they even have now,
Mm-hmm.
because banks, regulations, everybody wants to know everybody else's business, whether it's for a good purpose or not. It should be up to the user.
Mm-hmm.
So that is one of our main things that we are bringing. We have some great partnerships that are already working right now to facilitate some products that will allow users to privately check out without having to provide any personal identification through any type of online, retailer,
Mm-hmm.
whether they accept crypto or not. So we have a lot of stuff in the works right now, and hopefully, come shortly after the first of the year, these products will start releasing, and users will be able to use Veil for more than just speculative purposes.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of our goals, and it's it's always challenging, especially with a lot of the new regulations.
Mm-hmm.
Every time you take a step forward, new regulations pop up, and you feel like you're taking 2 steps back. And one of our main focuses also is going to be real DEX. You know, there aren't really that we don't really feel that there's any true decentralized exchanges that exist at the
Hmm.
moment.
Yeah.
There are some that are under development that we're aware of that fall into this group, and you know we want to support them if in any way we can, because really that is where everything's going to have to go. You know, the performance may not be there for day traders, so you will still have a lot of people that require to utilize centralized exchanges because of the way they're developed. But we're hoping at some point that a mechanism will be created that allows a lot of these decentralized exchanges to be able to compete with centralized exchanges as far as performance wise. Once
Hmm.
that happens, if the DEX is truly decentralized, then we feel that you know regulations are pretty much pointless at that point. I mean, yes, everybody, when you cash out the fiat, you still have some level of regulation that affects you. But once more retailers start accepting crypto, then most of those burdens fall on them,
Hmm.
and that's fine. A lot of users that we've spoken to, you know, they don't have an issue with doing like AML KYC
Hmm.
once, or dealing with certain retailers indirectly, but they don't want banks having their information. They don't want, you know, credit card companies having their information because everybody knows they sell this information. And, you know, not only that, there's hacks that happen constantly. You know, every month you're hearing about a new one where people's data has been leaked, and it's kind of getting out of hand. The government, they push all these regulations to supposedly increase the ability of all these businesses to get at your information easier, but they don't seem to be pushing anything to protect the user's information. So, you know, we're working with a company right now to hopefully alleviate a lot of those risks, and it'll be interesting to see how that partnership rolls out.
So you have mentioned the development of RIXT, you've mentioned the possibility of the DX. What's another plans you have for the next 6 months then?
We're going through a big development phase right now, and
Hmm.
we have a group of guys that are working on. We got a new UX, you know, user interface that's being developed. We have mobile wallets planned on the horizon. We need to get the new UI. We want to create a consistent user interface that's much easier to use than our existing one.
Hmm.
When we, you know, had this idea of merging multiple privacy protocols, one of the things that slipped, in my opinion, was ease of uh, ease of use. You know,
Mm,
that's probably one of our biggest complaints that we've had right now is our wallet is overly complicated. So we are addressing that
I
by
agree.
yes, we're addressing that by the next wallet will pretty much be as easy as Bitcoin wallet is to use. And that's not to say that that's even the easiest wallet to use, but
But
we're moving in the right direction. We're getting away from the complicated uh, wallet that we have now. And you know, it was everything seemed all fun and everything seemed like the right way to go, but it just didn't. You know, it became too complicated, too convoluted for people to spend their funds,
mhm.
to you know, move from protocol to protocol. So we're
I'm
going
sure that
to
kept the support team very busy as well, as they were probably receiving the same type of questions from the users, and it just gave you more work. So in the way you don't
absolutely,
have, yeah.
absolutely, absolutely.
So sounds everything sounds amazing. I hope everyone is staying on top and understanding what we're relating to in this conversation. So if someone is interested in purchase some veil, where is it available? Where can you get it from?
There are a few exchanges you can get bail from now. I would say the busiest exchange with the most real volume and real trading because would be
I like,
Vinex.
yeah.
Vinex is a exchange based out of Singapore.
Hmm.
They have no AML KYC for I believe up to a Bitcoin a day, and then above that you have to obviously give them your information.
Hmm.
Um, we've had really good success with them, zero issues. Sometimes they do manual delays depending on if they're on holiday. They may delay, you know, here and there, but for the most part, we've had very little complaints by any issues from them.
Hmm.
Um, we're also on Probit, and we actually have a few other exchanges that we are actually larger ones that we're in discussion with now. We've already established that they'll be added, but we delayed the adding of those exchanges, which I can't mention yet, until after the first of the year when we release the next wallet. We don't want to overburden their developers with any kind of issues that they may experience during the transition from our existing protocol to the next consensus mechanism. So we want to make sure that we get all the bugs worked out before we start integrating. So you will see a lot more new exchanges coming online after the first of the year. So that should be very exciting. A lot of people have wanted some larger exchanges, which some of them are larger, significantly larger than the exchange we're on now. And we're also in talks with a few real DEXs, as we'll be launching on their platforms when they release. So, and who knows, we may even be putting out our own DEX. It's hard to say, but the options are always there. And anything, one of the whole goals that I personally have is to make the network more profitable for the users. So a lot of the new products that we'll be developing, if it's trading based or some type of service, is we want to have microtransactions collected and pushed to the blocks. So as miners or stakers are supporting the network, they get rewarded by the transaction fees that are on the network. So that's another goal of mine. And so far we have a few things planned that will facilitate that, and we're always looking for other ideas. So we welcome the community to approach us with any type of ideas about this. And we have a significant budget, so we're willing to work with other projects and services to support the Veil network.
Fantastic. I mean, everything you said sounds very interesting, as you don't just have a product, you're actually trying to develop and help other people, which I think is extremely important, to make sure that everyone is able to benefit from the network. And I really, really appreciate that. So this is your moment to shine now, James. I've got nothing else to ask you at the moment. But if you have anything else to add or mention, you can do it now. It's your time to shine.
Okay, well, I would say there's two things. Recently, we've brought on two new individuals to the team. We have a gentleman named Joshua Marriage, who is going to be heading up the business development, business operations side of the project. He has a lot of experience in that area, and he has already hit the ground running. He's got lots of plans coming up, so I expect to see a lot more visible success from Veil in the very near future. And we also have another lead architect that's come online. He goes by the username Mimir. And he is an extremely qualified developer. And he also has been privately developing some new technologies that we're going to integrate into Veil as well, that will increase user privacy. So it's if anybody has any questions or wants to meet these two people, I encourage them to stop by our Discord channel, and they're available and willing to chat with anybody. And if anybody has any development suggestions, ideas, or business opportunities, or any type of services that they would like to see exist for Veil, I encourage them to either contact Joshua Marriage or Mimir or myself, and we can all sit down and see what works out and see what makes sense. We're here for the community, so we want to get the community involved, and we want to listen to the ideas and suggestions from the community to make Veil better. So, we encourage the community to get involved. And so far, community has done, our outreach has been pretty significant. We have picked up 3 new developers over the last couple months that were just community, bounty developers, and we're looking to hire more. So if any developers happen to watch this and are interested in getting involved, have them contact me.
Will do.
So I appreciate it.
You're very welcome. I mean, thank you so much, James, for finding some time. It sounds like Vale is extremely busy, so I really appreciate for you finding half an hour to come over and talk to us. I really, really enjoyed finding out a little bit more about Vale. Thank you for sharing all the plans and everything that's planned. I'll post, are you looking for more developers on my Twitter? And hopefully someone will come out and give you some ideas as well. So thank you so much for coming around.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.